morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 487 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah.
Crier Media.
Today, recording day is Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. And not sure what kind of day it's going to be here at the Beaver Lodge, but the kids are reporting much cooler weather and gray weather and rainy weather in a lot of the places they are. So I'm not sure if that's what we have in store for us here today at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me as always, sorry, I have a frog in my throat. With me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corbin Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We love them because they support us. Now, we got a packed show for you today, but before we do anything else, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir?
At the moment, it's not terrible. It wasn't good when I woke up. I got to be honest with you. I did not sleep well. I had a rough night last night. Had a migraine that lasted for several hours yesterday. It was a bad one. It was the one. I didn't need to be in a completely dark room, but I did need stillness and silence, and any sort of movement would just set me off. It's when the migraine gets that bad, everything irritates you. From your own heartbeat to the sound of your own breath. And that went on for a few hours yesterday. Then it diminished. And it was not a good day, not a good night. And that's why you didn't hear from me last night. That's why we didn't record last night, because I was just in no shape to do so. And I was literally, I turned off my phone and I just lied on the couch and just put on comedy to try and distract me. So it was a rough night. It happens, but I hate it when it happens, because you lose your own self and you lose time, which is valuable, because you only have so many days on this earth, and the older you get, the more you realize that. So I'm better now this morning than when I was when I first woke up. So hopefully the day will continue that way. I've got a meeting at 10 today. We'll see how that goes. It's funny. I signed my contract with my to be I'm a sales rep, right? As you know, with a new company. And an hour after I signed that, I had a couple of phone calls from people offering me jobs.
Oh.
I'm like, I just signed a contract.
Okay. But good jobs or
Yeah, yeah, but it's like, where were you 2 hours ago?
It rains, it pours.
Yeah.
Good stuff and bad stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I said, "Well, look, I have a meeting on Wednesday. I'm gonna go over it. I'll give you a call." One of the people I spoke to, who I've worked with in the past, I said, "I'll give you a call later, and maybe we can do some work together in the future." I don't know, but nothing is nothing's written in stone at this moment. Like I said, I signed the contract, but I'm not an employee. I'm a commissioned salesperson, so I'm kind of what you would call freelance
Right.
for the most part. So, and he even said to me, he says, you're not bound by certain elements of this because you're not an employee. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, no, I hear you. Okay, so it's very amiable and amicable relationships that we've begun. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, yeah. So that's where my head is at this morning. And yourself?
Okay. That's some good news then. Myself, things are well.
Mm,
Um, as kits and cubs know, it's been a relatively heavy summer. Yesterday, there was some developments that could significantly alleviate some of the heaviness that's been around. And I'm speaking cryptically because it involves information that is not mine to share.
right.
So not that I'm trying to be playing coy unnecessarily,
Hmm.
but a bit of a breakthrough, I would say, which is very, very positive. And of course, the curling season has started, and some of the kids in the chat asked this morning, how's it going? So yesterday was the first match from my seniors team, and it was the first match for everyone because nobody got first time on the ice. Nobody got any practice ice at all
Mm,
before because everything was closed. The situation was that the dehumidifier in the actual curling arena itself
hmm.
got clogged up with a whole bunch of dust and stuff over the course of the summer. So apparently that needed to be cleaned out. It wasn't doing the job as well. So they got it doing the job well enough so that we can be there, but it's still not cold enough in there exactly. Um, but yeah, the first match didn't go so well because it was basically whoever remembered the most from last year for the first three ends. So we lost that one 9-3. But we won two of the last three ends. So we were finding our game, but it
Hmm.
took us three ends to, it's like, oh yeah, that's what that, yes, we're remembering how to curl. Oh yes. But last night, holy crow. I don't know what happened to me, but I could have been on TV last night.
Oh,
I think I might have played the best game of my life.
oh,
In curling, they give people percentages, right? Every time you throw a rock, they give you like a point rating 1 to 4, depending on how well you, 0 to 4, how well you made the shot. And if you get fours all throughout the match, then at the end they say, you curled 100%. I must have curled easily 85 to 90% yesterday. I was literally sinking everything. Uh, and the things that I wasn't sinking were like off by, an inch or two, were still extremely usable. So, like I said, and every time I play a match like this where I'm doing well at the beginning, at some point I have the thought in my head, hey, I'm playing well. And then my whole match goes to pot.
mm,
The second I think, hey, I'm doing pretty well. And I had the thought a couple of times last night, like just popped in my head. It's like, no, no. It's just do not think that. So it's like it popped in and I got rid of it right away. But yeah, I played. I don't know who I was yesterday, but man, I was. If I could keep that up, I'd be a very happy beaver. Like yesterday, I was the MVP. So it was kind of nice. It was nice. But yeah, it's we our seasons are going to change a lot. Our men, that yesterday was my Tuesday night men's competitive team, and we normally do 4 rounds, but we've already missed 2 or 3 games already because the club opened late. So they considered last night was not an official game; it was an exhibition game, and
right.
we're going to play 3 rounds instead of four, with I think the same amount of games per round, but because of holidays and stuff, there was always like one of the 7 weeks in a round where we had to play 2 matches to sort of make up for a holiday. we won't have to do that this year. So it's a little bit of a reorganized season, but right, as long as we get to play, right, is what matters. So very happy with that. All right, let's get to it. Mr. Grizzly, I have a visual for you that you might want to put up. We're going to start. States.
We'll look at that in just a sec here. I'll bring this up. This is a doozy. Category 6. Jesus.
Okay.
The clip you just sent me.
Oh, yes.
It's now a Category 6 hurricane, which is a new category. This is the largest storm that's ever been seen.
Yeah, this is Hurricane Milton. So yeah, it had. So that's from space, and you can see the eye there.
That's a monster.
It is. Mother Nature is pissed.
Yeah.
This is what happens, kits and cubs, when you don't mind your mama.
Yeah, it says thousands remain stranded in Florida. There was 1 million people told to evacuate as Hurricane Milton approaches. Evacuation orders have led to highway gridlock, and numerous gas stations have run out of fuel. Hurricane Milton's extreme strength has sparked discussions about introducing a new Category 6 designation to classify storms that surpass the intensity of current Category 5 hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
It is an absolute beast.
Precisely, Mr. Grizzly. So millions of people are evacuating currently. As you mentioned, there's about, this is the latest news that just before I came on the show, I tried to get the latest. About 15% of gas stations are closed. It is forecast to double in size before making landfall sometime tonight. Although the effects are going to start being felt this morning from the hurricane. What else do they have here? At around 10 last night, it was still classified as a Category 5 with winds up to 165 miles per hour. There have been times where winds have been recorded up to 190 miles per hour, and 190 miles per hour is like 290 something kilometers. We're like closing in on 300 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, it's a monster.
It's just ridiculous winds. It's expected to weaken a little. Last night, it was expected to weaken a little bit prior to making landfall in Florida, somewhere between Tampa Bay and Fort Myers. Storm surges of up to 15 feet are expected in certain areas. Evacuations in Florida last night had been expanded, according to the Sarasota Fire Chief, David Rathpen. He said, "I cannot overemphasize enough, if you're in those evacuation zones, you need to leave. Rescue teams are scarce after Hurricane Helen. They're already out and doing stuff, so people might not be able to get to you. And response time might take longer." Sarasota Fire Chief David Rathpen also says resources for our partners are a little bit stretched thin. There's a number of federal urban search and rescue teams that are still deployed to North Carolina. So that also is happening. I have some other news there. And Helene itself, they're worried about this because Helene itself has caused at least 230 deaths now. About half of those fatalities are in North Carolina. And that's also, like I said, the situation there is not being helped by direct attempts at misinformation and disinformation. You've probably heard the stories, but there are deep fake photos. There's one of a little girl in a boat holding a dog. That's a fake one.
Yeah, and then they made fun of that, and they put the dog in the life jacket holding the girl.
Yes. And you have a whole bunch of people making claims, like, for example, Trump made a whole bunch of claims that nobody from the government has been there and everybody's been abandoned. But if you watch some of the late night comedy shows, they followed that with clips of Governor Kemp from Georgia and Governor Cooper from North Carolina. And like governors all over. Maybe not Governor Cooper. I think Kemp the governor of Tennessee and another state all saying, we've got everything we need. Everybody's called us. Everybody said, it's like, we're doing as best as we can with what we got. And we are, everybody's called us and said, whatever you need, just say it, you got it. So, yeah.
Well,
it's not impressive that people are trying to put out disinformation and misinformation in this particular context.
You've heard about the FEMA stories?
Some of them, yeah, but go ahead.
How they're saying that they're saying do not accept money from FEMA. If you do, they now own your property. I'm like, that's
yes.
What the hell is wrong with people?
Yes, they're coming to take your property if you take that. And the other one is that the initial payment of about $750 that's supposed to just get you through the immediate right now, that's all you're going to get.
Yeah.
Nothing that, so don't bother filing.
This is Russian disinformation is what this is.
But this is all right. Yeah. It's to make you give the impression government's not working. But there are a lot of people that are either not going to get benefits and money to which they are entitled. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that might not evacuate or make decisions with regard to their safety or their family's safety based on this information that could put them in a lot of danger. Yeah. So please, I know we're in this era of distrust everything and everyone, but when it comes to natural disasters, emergency, please get your information from official sources. Don't pick this type of event to choose a hill to perhaps literally die on.
Yeah.
Just experts are experts for a reason. The National Hurricane Center of the United States, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, they're the ones that have the equipment. They're the ones that have the data. Please listen to them. FEMA, they are the experts at this type of stuff. Just please. And if you're in Canada and you have friends and family and loved ones and people you care about down there and you're talking to them, please tell them, don't be proud and don't be more concerned with being right this time. Just listen to the information and follow it. This is going to be, if not the worst, one of the top 5 worsts when it lands. Mm-hmm. When it makes landfall, it's going to be disastrous. And because it comes immediately on the heels of another disaster and resources are stretched thin, it is way less likely this time that if you choose to stay,
that you will survive.
One, that you will survive, and that if you do survive, that people will be able to get to you. And there are few fates worse, I can imagine, than actually surviving the hurricane and then still knowing that you're going to die.
Well, listen to this. So this ties directly into that because we're talking about climate change, and now this is the largest hurricane we've ever seen. In 1989, before Shell Oil joined the Global Climate Coalition, the company announced it was redesigning a $3 billion North Sea natural gas platform that it had been developing for years. The reason it gave? Sea levels were going to rise as a result of global warming. I'm like, sea levels were going to rise as a result of global warming. The original design called for the platform to sit just 30 meters above the ocean's surface. But the company decided to raise it by a meter or two. The company's then chief offshore engineer, Chris Graham, said rising sea levels and increasing wave heights were really showing during the late 80s and early 90s. And the company was taking them seriously. A rash of storms and monster waves that had battered the North Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico during those years was particularly concerning, and engineers wondered whether climate change might be behind it. The tip-off to there being changes came from hurricanes, said Bob B., another Shell offshore engineer at the time, who also worked for the global engineering firm Bechtel. Even back in those days, hurricane intensities were changing. So, Big Oil was making business decisions 35 years ago to account for sea level rise they knew was coming, all while telling the public that climate change was a hoax. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's gonna be another cigarette thing down the road.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All the class action suits with that. It's just
because they knew what was happening, but they didn't care. Now, let me say this. I'm talking about the top brass, the top executives, the major shareholders didn't care. I'm sure the engineers, did. And they pointed it out. They said, this is a problem. Drill, baby, drill. They didn't care. Money to be made.
Indeed. According to the Associated Press, upgraded back to Category 5, so it had slowed down and then got upgraded back to Category 5, now possibly 6. Storm as it churns towards Florida's west coast. This was a few hours, 7:24 a.m. This morning. Tampa Bay area is home to more than 3.3 million people. It's faced with a possibility of widespread destruction after avoiding direct hits from major hurricanes for more than a century. Again, the AP talking about the evacuations here. That's
1 million people.
1 million people. The other article that we have here, because, as Canadians, we're over here, but there are a lot of us that that have property down there because we winter down there. And there was some advice that was being offered. Hopefully I can find it. From Global, as Hurricane Milton nears, what Canadians with Florida property should know. So from Global, many Canadians flock to Florida as cold weather nears, but as Hurricane Milton barrels towards the state as a Category 5 storm, though it's expected to make landfall as a 4, it may have some north of the border worried about property they own down south. The latest survey by the National Association of Realtors found Canadians topped the list of foreign buyers in Florida, making up 13%, and more than 500,000 Canadians own property in the state. But when a hurricane hits, they may find it more difficult to be able to get help after the fact. That's because, according to the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, only U.S. citizens, non-citizen nationals, such as those from American Samoa or qualified non-citizens, those with a green card, those who have been granted asylum, or refugees are among those falling into this category, can receive disaster assistance. Given the limits to disaster assistance, here's what property owners like snowbirds can do to best protect what they own and what to do after the storm leaves. According to the Canadian Snowboard Association online guide, trimming or removing damaged trees and branches, securing rain gutters, and clearing any clogged areas or debris, or retrofitting your roof, window, and doors can help limit potential damage. Now, of course, they offered this advice on October 8th. So I'm not sure that anybody who saw that says, oh, great, I'm going to fly down there right now and get that done. So a little late to be given this advice, unfortunately. The association's online guide also advises people to keep important financial and legal information available at all times, take inventory of their personal assets, review their insurance, and retain all receipts for temporary living expenses if needed for future claims. Sonia Bolduc, Vice President of Business Development at Nat Bank, a Florida subsidiary of Canada's National Bank, said when you purchase a home in the state, mortgage lenders often require windstorm insurance on top of their regular insurance. But there are additional insurance options as well because the damage facing property owners might not be from wind or rain alone. Quote, there's additional insurance that they can get if they're in a flood zone area. They can get flood insurance also, she said. So if you get the whole package, then your property is well protected, at least against any financial burden. The windstorm coverage is often provided by the Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, CPIC, a state-run insurer as part of the overall home insurance, though there are some private companies that provide coverage as well. Mark Freelander, Director of Communications for the Insurance Information Institute in the U.S., told Global News that purchasing flood insurance is also a wise choice, as it's not part of your existing home insurance. It is typically granted through the National Federal Insurance Program. Those policies are capped at U.S. $250,000 for damages to the home and U.S. $100,000 to the homeowner's property. Private insurers may be able to provide slightly more, but the insurance is important to have. To be fully protected financially from catastrophes like hurricanes and other severe storms, you need both property insurance and flood insurance, he said. Friedlander notes that just 20% of Florida homeowners have flood insurance. That is going to be an economic disaster for the residents of that state once this is done. He said some aren't aware it's not part of their home insurance, but others decided to just take the risk. However, Friedlander says that if you get your insurance through the CPIC, you may be required to purchase separate flood insurance. All policyholders will be required to do so as of 2027. For those concerned, they may face restrictions on insurance. He added, if you own property in Florida, you can purchase property and flood insurance. Once the storm has passed, so this is probably information that's more useful. The other information is maybe useful for you for later, for the next time, for the future, but there's not much you're going to be able to do to take action on those now. But for after the storm, filing a claim. Once the storm has passed, Friedlander encourages filing a claim as quickly as possible, though as you may be in Canada during the storm, you will have up to a year under Florida state law to file a claim. The quicker you do so, however, the faster you'll be able to get repairs to your property. As Canadians can only stay in the U.S. for 6 months in a 12-month period, this could pose difficulty, which is why Bolduc said to look into potential third-party services that may be able to visit your home to check in on it. Friedlander added that having a neighbor check and take photos is another alternative. If you're able to get that service, it's a great peace of mind for you, Bolduc said. The CSA advises to take photographs of property damage to assist in the filing of claims and to contact your insurance provider before signing contracts with anyone doing repairs and ensure they are licensed to conduct business in the state and are insured themselves. Friedlander cautions that if you are hoping to have insurance replace or repair possessions or property, make sure you have purchased it before the storm and do so early. Florida has a moratorium that prevents the purchase of or additions to insurance, at least from the state. Private insurance may differ for 30 days after the issuing of a storm watch or warning. He also said you can apply for insurance once the storm has passed for future coverage, but to not try for a claim on damage that has occurred. Quote, it's considered an act of fraud if you try to file a claim for something that was not covered prior to your policy being effective, Friedlander said.
Interesting.
So yeah, those are probably the biggest bits of news that I have there. With regard to the frauds and the deep fakes, I believe there might be a little more information here. This is from Forbes magazine. In the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, Asheville, North Carolina, and other impacted regions were flooded with water, while fake generative AI images of destruction and human suffering flooded social media. These doctored or faked visuals can complicate disaster response efforts, create false narratives, and above all, harm public trust in a moment when normal people are making extraordinary efforts to help one another in the midst of life and death scenarios. In particular, 2 images of a distressed child holding a puppy and who appears to be trapped in floodwaters has gained traction online. As an expert in video and photo forensics, I can say with certainty, I can say from the perspective of the person who has written this piece, and that is Lars Daniel, who covers digital evidence and cybersecurity in Life in Law for Forbes magazine. As an expert in video and photo forensics, I can say with certainty that these emotionally evocative images are highly edited or outright fake. The first image bears telltale signs of a deep fake to a trained eye, comparing it with the second image in the series below, if you see the article here, in which the young girl has one too many fingers, the puppy's muzzle has a different coloration, and the boat is a different shape and color. The problem with fake images during disasters. Repeated exposure to fake content can erode public trust in legitimate news and information sources. When people repeatedly encounter false images, they begin to question all media, including accurate and necessary disaster updates. Further, fake images can be a Trojan horse for cyber attacks, often being shared in conjunction with phishing links or scam fundraising campaigns. Unsuspecting individuals are lured into contributing funds or providing personal details to malicious actors under the guise of helping those affected by disasters. So please, yes, also be aware that when you see one of those images and they try to pull at your heartstrings and click here and whatnot, that might be directing you to a place that does not have your best interest at heart, especially the one of your bank account. The repeated exposure to fake content during disasters creates an emotional whiplash. People experience initial shock or sadness when they see images of devastation or distress, but when those images are debunked, it leads to feelings of betrayal, confusion, or anger. This cycle can quickly wear down our ability to engage emotionally with the real crises. In the past, people could see an image of a disaster and instantly react, whether by donating, sharing it, or sympathizing with those affected. Today, with so much misinformation floating around, even this simple act of caring comes with the extra step of verification. Before reacting, people now need to check if the image is real, whether it comes from and whether it has been manipulated. Where it comes from and whether it's been manipulated. This constant mental effort adds a layer of fatigue, and many simply disengage, feeling it's easier to not care than to wade through the sea of misinformation. Every time a person learns that an image they were emotionally invested in is fake, it chips away at their compassion. People don't like feeling duped, and once they've been misled a few times, they can begin to doubt everything they see. This skepticism makes it harder to summon genuine care during real disasters, as the fear of being fooled again overshadows the desire to help. Over time, they begin to tune out, treating every new disaster with a degree of emotional distance, unsure if it's real or just another hoax. Belief, particularly in times of crisis, should be simple. We should be able to see images and news reports of disasters and trust that they are accurate representations of what's happening. However, the proliferation of fake images during events like Hurricane Helene has made this one simple process far more complicated. A handful of bad actors can have an oversized impact by creating and sharing deepfakes that go viral. It now takes efforts to decide whether to trust or engage with content. This effort can create problematic reactions that are detrimental to the individual and the collective. When people feel they can no longer trust what they see, they may stop trying altogether. It's easier to not care than to expend the mental energy required to verify every image or story. This lack of engagement ultimately harms genuine disaster relief efforts, as fewer people could step forward to help or donate. For some, the constant uncertainty about what's real and what's fake becomes too much to handle. Instead of carefully navigating between real and fake images, they may choose to disengage from disaster news entirely. This detachment not only affects how individuals respond to disasters, but also weakens the overall collective response. When entire segments of the population stop paying attention because they can't trust what they see, it becomes harder to mobilize widespread support and resources. And uh, it continues on. I wanted to continue reading it, but for some reason, even though this says this was written by a person, it really sounds like it was written by AI, because it seems like I was repeating the same things over again, just with different words.
It probably was. It probably was.
Yeah. Not the best.
No.
Yeah. Oh, well. Forbes. Really, Forbes?
I mean, look, man,
Okay.
they'll do what they got to do to turn
Yeah,
a
but
larger profit.
that's weird. Because I was reading ahead in the article before I decided to stop, and the next 4 paragraphs were still just another way to say the same damn thing. So yeah, definitely how it impacts social cohesion. Sort of like an emotional apathy will set in, and yeah, the bad decisions could be made at this moment. But the real dangers here are the news about the government's not there. You've been left on your own. Don't bother to go collect your money, because that's all you're going to get, or you may lose your property.
It's a way to try and undermine the Biden-Harris administration, and the worst part of it is VP Harris has very little to do with this, because, again, she's the vice president. It's not a big position.
No.
But this is trying to undermine her for the upcoming election so Trump can come in and win it all.
Yeah. Well, that's, we have Marjorie Trader Greed, who's trying to be a star again, where she basically took a map of where the hurricane looks like it's going to, where Helene hit like this, and then put an electoral map over it. And see, they can control the weather. Don't tell me it can't be done. Right? So everything's a conspiracy now, right? But what Mr. Grizzly said before about Kamala Harris, people have to remember that, because one of the big Republican claims is, well, why didn't she do that? Why didn't she do that? And there's a young man in the United States who went viral after the debate. He's sitting there and he's going, so I took civics class. I took grade 10 civics class. It's like, name one vice president in the history of the world, in the history of the United States, that's made these types of decisions. You all know that the vice president doesn't get to make those decisions.
Exactly.
It's like, what did Kamala Harris do to respond? It's like, she doesn't have the authority. It's like, the vice president does 2 things: break ties in the Senate, and as Mike Pence learned, which is the least fun part of his job, certify the election. And that's not a presidential job. That's a job as their role in the electoral system.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different thing. It's a ceremonial role as
Well,
part
and
of. So,
largely the job of vice president is a figurehead anyway.
well, yes, it is.
I mean,
But
they're there in the event that something catastrophic happens to the president, the vice president takes over.
yeah,
That's
but
they're the backup, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's largely a figurehead position.
but that's literally their two duties.
Yeah, yeah.
Official duties. So,
They're
for
trying to
example,
put all the weight of the world on the shoulders of the possibly next president of the United States, who is currently the vice president, so that they can paint her in a bad picture. But if anybody is smart enough to know a damn thing about how the system works in the United States of America, and I'm afraid there's millions who don't, because they skip physics class.
physics. Did you say physics?
Civics class. Sorry, probably physics too, actually. But they skipped civics class, or didn't attend it, or didn't pay attention, or were getting high in the smoking section.
Smoking
know.
in the boys' room.
I don't know, but either way, again, we watched the vice presidential debate, and it was a love fest more than anything else. They didn't sling muck, and what they have to say is really inconsequential for the most part. I mean, it really is.
It really is. The reason the vice presidential debate was really important because a lot of people are under the belief that Vance is there to help Trump win, and then whoops, there you go. Have a nice trip. Whoop.
Ooh, he fell out a window.
Oh, gee. What a shame. But yeah, we said it a while ago. So Trump, watch your back.
Yes, what a shame.
But this whole thing with the vice president thing is the whole thing that's central to the Jack Smith indictment, right? When he had to rewrite that indictment as candidate Trump and his personal lawyers. Well, Mike Pence in that situation then becomes running mate, not vice president in that scenario. Yes. And, there are certain things where they have privilege because of that immunity law. If he's talking as the president to the vice president, that stuff is inadmissible. But anything he said as candidate Trump as to running mate Pence, like, you do need to do that thing that you say that you're not allowed to do to stall the electoral count because I need to win, is not a statement as president to the vice president. That's a statement from the candidate to his running mate.
Yes.
And therefore, it is not protected because his ceremonial job at that moment, the counting of the votes, the Electoral College votes officially, and getting them sanctioned by the House, is not a vice presidential job. It's a ceremonial position that the vice president happens to do. So, yeah. We're going to hear all of this, and it doesn't really affect us directly because we're not citizens there. But everything that's tried down there eventually gets tried up here. So you have to pay attention to what's going on. No word yet on the path of Milton following landfall, where it will hit in Canada, because we didn't get. I'm not sure about Atlantic Canada. I didn't hear too much of us getting stuff from Helen.
Yeah, I don't know what the status is. I know that there's a warning, but I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe Reese CC, which can fill us in on that if you know anything that we don't. That would be wonderful.
Kit Cassie here goes, best advice I can give anyone for insurance is buy your policy from an independent broker, not online through a chatbot, a real person with their CAIB and or CIP. Yes. That is very good. Kit Elaine, from what my friend in St. Petersburg tells me, yes, even though West Palm Beach is out of Milton's path, it will realistically get damage. And I'm glad you mentioned that because Governor DeSantis also said something. he said that even though the storm is forecast to double in size before making landfall sometime tonight, and that there will be life-threatening water surges expected along much of Florida's west coast. The storm will cross the entire state, and there could be surges and erosion on the east coast as well. Tampa's airport is already closed. The Orlando airport, which is the state's largest, is scheduled to close this morning as the effects start to be felt. And like I said, it's expected to make land, even though it's got up to Category 6 and might be Category 5 now. It is expected to make landfall as a 3, so we'll probably lose a little steam as it makes landfall. But like I said, storm surges in some areas as high as 15 feet above sea level.
Yeah, there was a graphic I saw about that earlier from CNN, which is really disturbing. There's something here that's interesting. They call it Schrodinger's Republican. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene. She denies man-made climate change, but believes the Democratic Party controls the weather.
Which would then be man-made changes to the weather.
Exactly. I can't make it up. I'm like, climate change is a hoax. The Democrats control the weather.
My brain hurts. Oh, Mr. Grizzly, why'd you do that to me?
Well, we gotta have a little bit of fun.
I'm just gonna look through here, see if the kits have anything else on this. Nope, nothing that I can see here. So we're going to move away from that topic because I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about it over the next few days. But yes, a little news closer to home at the Beaver Lodge. It appears that Kit Dan, because he's doing democracy and running for something, got together with a couple of other people that were denied a spot in one of the debates, and it seems they refused to take no for an answer.
Oh, good.
And they pooled together rather than trying to fight it all individually. And it would appear, if I understood correctly, that our friend, Mr. Dan, has got himself a spot in that debate, as have the other three, I would suppose. Dan, you can let me know if that's damn right. There he goes. That's the way to do it, my friend. Way to go. Way to make things happen. Really proud of you. There you go. So yeah, sometimes you don't take the first no for an answer, kids. Press on a little bit. Kit Dan says, even the invited candidates asked for us. Well, how nice is that? There's some fair play. I like that. That's what Canada's about, the spirit of fair play. I like that. So good work. Way to go, Kit Dan. I'm getting yourself the visibility that you deserve. And he says that debate will be October 16th online.
So that's Tuesday.
Yep, next Tuesday. We'll definitely keep our eyes and ears out for it. Kit Mohan goes, democracy for the win. Yes, I concur. All right.
So do we talk about Bob Woodward and how he knew all these things about Trump when it came to COVID a few years ago, and then now he's doing it again by concealing all this information just so he could sell more books when he could have helped protect democracy?
Sure, we can talk about that a little bit. I'm not fully up on it, but I do have the broad lines.
Well, Trump has had at least 7 conversations with Putin since leaving office, which I think helps explain why he absconded with so many secret and top secret files to Mar A Lago and stuffed them in a toilet. Right? They were on a stage. They were in a shower. They were like, and he kept in contact with Putin the whole time because Putin owns his ass. He owes how much in loans to Russian oligarchs, which is, as we all know, oligarchs are just holding Putin's money. None of this is a secret.
Yeah. Well, so yes, 7 phone calls in that period of time after you've absconded with national defense documents. that can't be good. They have something called the Logan Act in the United States, where only the members of the current government are supposed to be having these type of diplomatic talks with leaders of other nations. But of course, like the Hatch Act, the Logan Act actually has no teeth. It's a crime in name only.
That's right.
So what's the point? But according to the BBC, there's another little tidbit in this story. A new book by veteran Watergate reporter Bob Woodward says Donald Trump secretly sent coveted COVID-19 testing machines to Vladimir Putin for personal use when they were in short supply, a claim angrily dismissed by the Trump campaign. The book, titled War, also includes a claim that Trump secretly had stayed in touch with Putin since leaving office, according to excerpts cited by the U.S. media. In response, Mr. Trump, I don't know why they keep on writing President Trump, Mr. Trump told AB, or at least former President Trump, because he's not president now.
Correct.
In response, Mr. Trump told ABC News he's a storyteller, a bad one, and he's lost his marbles. The Trump campaign also said none of the made-up stories were true. President Trump, this is a quote, so I have to say, President Trump gave him absolutely no access for this trash book that either belongs in the bargain bin of the fiction section of a discount bookstore or used as toilet tissue, said Trump campaign spokesperson Steve Chung in a statement to the BBC on Tuesday. Now, again, nobody that hasn't already drunk the Kool-Aid is going to believe that Bob Woodward is the type of person that publishes trash books that either belong in the bargain bin of the fiction section of a discount bookstore or used as toilet tissue. They denigrate everything and everyone. But to a point of ridiculous. Like, it's always, this isn't just like, no, it's not true. He might have gotten a couple of facts wrong. He might not have been his normal thorough self this time, right? Which if I was deflecting somehow, it's like, oh, Bob Woodward does usually produce some good work. I'm actually surprised he got this wrong. I don't know what's wrong. Not up to his usual standards. He's normally more thorough. To me, that would be a much more believable path than he got absolutely no access for this trash book that belongs in the bargain bin of a discount bookstore used as toilet tissue. It's like total annihilation in every response. Completely flattened, drop an anvil and a piano on them, right? And then run over them with a bus, and then have the earth open up and swallow them whole. You can't obliterate everything. That's not a communication strategy. Not everything that someone does is the worst thing in history ever. Not every comment against you is complete and total trash that should be disregarded, and the person should be sent to the bowels of hell for what they wrote. It's overkill, man. So sometimes a little subtlety and a little grace, even as you are dismissing a thing, goes a long way and makes your denial a little more credible. Now, from these people, no matter how credible they try to make their denial, it's still bullshit. But my God, put some effort into it. It's like, if you're, again, that's the thing about being lied to, particularly the political sector for me. It's like, I understand that there is spin. That's one thing. And I understand that sometimes people lie. But for the love of everything that is holy anywhere on the universe, if you're going to lie, do one of two things. Put some effort in to make sure that we actually have to dig substantially to find out that it's a lie. Put some effort into your lie, or freaking make it entertaining. Let us get a laugh. But this is all just 300 miles an hour, all anger, roar, flamethrower coming out of the mouth, destruction, roar. I feel like I should have like a death metal right under there. It's cartoonish. It's just cartoonish, and it's an insult to your intelligence. And it's an insult to intelligence not only because they're lying to you, because the lie is so big and so bad. They think that you're dumb enough to believe this. Bob Woodward. Really?
Yeah.
The new book, due out next week, attributes the continuing communications between the former president and Putin to a single Trump aide who was not named in the book. It wasn't me, it was one of my aides.
Mm-hmm.
Guy who only got me coffee. Probably. According to a report by the New York Times, the book describes one scene in which a Trump aide was ordered out of Trump's office in Mar A Lago so the former president could conduct a call with Putin. The unnamed aide reportedly said that the two may have spoken a half dozen times since Trump left the White House in 2021. On Wednesday, the Kremlin denied the pair had spoken. Yes, because we could always believe the Kremlin. The book does not say what they discussed, and it quotes a Trump campaign official casting doubt on the supposed contact. The BBC has not seen a copy of the book. The Times reported that Mr. Woodward wrote that he could not corroborate the aide's claim and that other sources it reached out to were unaware of Trump and Putin contacting each other after he left office. Woodward, who rose to fame for his role in uncovering the Watergate scandal that brought down Richard Nixon's presidency, has written several best-selling books based on access to high-level sources. Calling Woodward demented and deranged, Trump campaign spokesperson said, Woodward is an angry little man and is clearly upset because President Trump is successfully suing him because of the unauthorized publishing of recordings he made previously.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, given Mr. Trump's recent track record in court filings, that Mr. Woodward is really shaking in his boots about this legal action that President Trump is allegedly doing successfully.
Well, Trump was supposed to appear on 60 Minutes on Sunday in an interview. Kamala Harris showed up. They interviewed her. Trump backed out because he said he wanted an apology over falsehoods, he claimed, from Leslie Stahl from 2020. There were no falsehoods. Everything she said was absolutely true.
Yep.
He said he didn't want to be interviewed because you were going to fact check him. They said, we fact check everything. So basically what he said was, you won't allow me to lie, so I'm not showing up.
And I'm going to lie about some offense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to manufacture an offense that took place.
Yeah.
I mean, he was mad 4 years ago, too, when it came out. So, I mean, at least he's consistent on being mad. Trump had previously spoken to Woodward for the journalist's 2021 book titled Rage. He later sued him over it, claiming Woodward did not have permission to release recordings of their interviews, an allegation denied by the author. In War, Woodward writes that while the former president was in office, Trump, quote, secretly sent Putin a bunch of Abbott Point Care COVID test machines for his personal use. And we all remember those images of Putin at that extremely long table,
mm-hmm.
because apparently he is a germaphobe.
That's what the story is.
Yes. Here we have a picture of that here that we can put up for the kids who don't remember.
Yeah.
But remember this long table?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that type of stuff. So yeah, Putin was reportedly anxious about falling ill with the virus, according to the retelling of Woodward's book in the U.S. The report adds that Putin had asked Trump not to publicly share that he had sent him the test, fearful that it would damage Trump's reputation. So this is where we learn how malleable he is again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No, Trump, don't tell anybody you gave me the machine. I'm worried about your reputation.
No, he's not.
Uh-huh. Because it would have been great for Putin's reputation in Russia if all the Russians found out that he had those personal machines for himself and nobody else. He didn't ask for some for the entire nation. Right? Or that as he's trying to as he's planning, I'm not sure if he had invaded Ukraine then, but
well, that's largely what the book is about, is the invasion of Ukraine.
Yes, but accepting help from the United States, being seen as accepting help from the United States, probably would not have been consistent with his.
Well, no,
I'm strong like bull.
The invasion took place in 2022.
Yes,
and Trump was already out of office, so no, it didn't.
No.
It didn't happen.
So it didn't happen then. Okay. I don't want you to tell anybody because people will get mad at you, not me, Putin reportedly told Trump, according to the book cited by Times. Trump reportedly said, I don't care. Fine. The claims have resurfaced questions about the relationship between Trump and Putin just weeks before the November 5th election. The former president has been accused in the past of colluding with Russia to interfere with U.S. elections, though a probe by the Department of Justice found no evidence of this and reached no conclusion as to whether Trump had obstructed the inquiry. But Robert Mueller sure did.
Mm-hmm.
The book also examines the long shadow cast by Trump over the foreign conflicts of the past 4 years and over the bitter U.S. political environment in which they have unfolded, according to the Washington Post. It also includes candid assessments by President Joe Biden of his own missteps, including his decision to make Merrick Garland Attorney General.
Yes,
Reacting
he
to
regrets
the
that.
Yeah, turned out to be a really bad choice. Reacting to the prosecution of his son Hunter by special prosecutor named by Garland, the president told an associate should never have picked Garland, the Post reported. Interesting that they tried to relate that thing to the prosecution of Hunter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thing with Merrick Garland, we have to remember, is Merrick Garland was going to be President Obama's choice for the Supreme Court. And President Obama didn't try to pick someone who was in the vein of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but someone who was someone straight down the middle that Republicans could potentially accept. So he wasn't going to shore up the left flank. He was trying to say, like, well, someone in the middle who's reasonable, who might decide on the right every now and then, because, hopefully I'll get a couple of Republicans to go if I pick somebody that they don't, doesn't make them go anaphylactic as soon as I mention their name. So he wasn't bringing a ringer.
No.
The way that they brought in Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and Coney Barrett as ringers. So, yeah. I understand naming him as the AG. Say, he was supposed to be a Supreme Court justice and he had that stolen from him, so let's make him the AG. It was very poetic. It was very Hollywood. It was very cinematic. But then Garland took 2 years to get off his butt to decide to prosecute anything, which has created the situation that allowed the tangerine tornado to delay everything, so that nobody will be able to cast it. Well, the most information with which people will be able to cast a vote is what was in Jack Smith's filing the other day. And the fact that they have one verdict of guilty of the 34 felonies, but technically can't say convicted felon because he hasn't been sentenced yet, because the sentencing is now going to be delayed till past the election. So nothing that people can run with to help destroy him. So he got what he wanted. I mean, preferably he would want the full things to keep his ass out of jail, but that there would be no convictions with sentences on any of them before the election is what he wanted. And he got it. And it was Merrick Garland that gave him a big assist by not doing anything for the first 2 years. And not taking Mueller's report, Robert Mueller's report, because he wrote it specifically as soon as possible while all the information was fresh, in case somebody wanted to do something with those at some point, because he sure knew that Bill Barr wasn't going to. But the whole case was laid out for obstruction of justice. And Merrick Garland decided not to do anything with that. So, yeah.
A lot of fun stuff going on there.
A less than impressive performance. Now, if you're thinking, we're going after former president and, you have to, that's never been done before in the United States, and you have to really, really dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Well, Merrick Garland's your guy for that. He's definitely meticulous. It's just that, dude, could you find another gear? Or 2 or 3? Because meticulous to the point of delaying justice is denying justice. So probably ultimately not the best choice when we're going to be looking back in history on this. All right, get some guts.
There's an excerpt from the book I want to read to you here. During a rather tense conversation between Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and his Russian counterpart. This took place in October of 2022, and the reason was the Russians were threatening to use nuclear weapons. And they had regarded it as a 50% chance that they may launch a nuke. And this is what Lloyd Austin had to say to his Russian counterpart. Russian counterpart's surname is Shoigu. He says, if you did this, all the restraints we have been operating under in Ukraine would be reconsidered. Sergei Shoigu was the defense minister's name. He says, this would isolate Russia on the world stage to a degree you Russians cannot fully appreciate. I don't take kindly to being threatened, Shoigu responded. Mr. Minister, Austin said, according to Woodward, I am the leader of the most powerful military in the history of the world. I don't make threats. So they had escalated it to the point where if you launch nukes, all bets are off. We're coming in full bore. And something that they said, apparently one of the reasons that Putin decided not to use nukes was Biden called him and said, nobody wins in nuclear combat. Everyone loses. You cannot win a war with nukes. We all lose.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking Hiroshima or Nagasaki. We're talking 100 million times that. We're talking megaton bombs. Like megaton. Mega for million. 50 megaton, 50 million tons. There was Fat Man and Little Boy, or was it Little Boy and Fat? I can't remember.
Yeah, Fat Man and Little Boy.
And they were like, what, 2 kilotons? Like nothing in comparison to what we have today. So you need to understand that the decimation that occurred in those 2 cities in Japan in the 40s would make, that looks like it's a blip on the map compared to what one nuclear warhead can do today. One. So something to consider.
Dang. All right. Closer to home. Gets and Cubs. There was a debate last night in the BC election.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, because I was curling and to get to bed early enough to do the show today, I don't have much on it for you. So I will set that aside, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you something tomorrow or Friday on that. But overall, sort of the main sort of controversy going in is that Sachi Curl from Angus Reid was scheduled to moderate that. And if everybody remembers the last federal election, when she moderated a debate, which nobody could understand then why it is that a pollster, and of all the pollsters, Angus Reid is the one that really most likes being present on TV. I see so many panel discussions that has somebody from Angus Reid or Sachi Curl, and it's like,
Why is she there?
Pollster.
She's not a journalist.
Why? Yeah, she's not a journalist.
She
She's not
shouldn't
a
be there.
pundit. She's not a campaign organizer. Like, why is she there constantly? But they're there a lot. They're on TV way more often than is Leger or Abacus or Main Street or like. But so they're very, very TV heavy, and it always interested me, boggled my mind, because according to 338.com, they actually rate the pollsters. They give them ratings: A+, A-, B+, C, depending on the reliability. And Angus Reid, of the big national ones, is consistently closer to the bottom of the pack. Now they don't get a D or whatnot; they're like a B- or a B or something, but they're there. They're not an A-level pollster.
Well,
even judged by other people in the industry, they're not an A-level pollster.
But she's a pollster. She's not a journalist. She should not be there.
Yes.
I do have a clip for you from last night.
Okay. But the question is, why do they keep on?
Yeah. Shouldn't.
Of all the pollsters, why wouldn't you seek out the A+ one?
Yeah. Why do you go for the B-?
Why is it always the B one? So they're everywhere. Why did she get that thing?
And
you'll
remember, have to
remember,
do with who owns the news media companies in this country.
Might have to do, yeah. And Angus Reid is always suspected of leaning towards conservatives. Their numbers always seem to favor that way. They're not that far out of line usually, but they tend to always tilt there. Now, whether or not that's just propriety, the propriety methods, or proprietary methods, or whether or not the things are actually sample sizes and questions are made such to have a lean. I guess that's only for them to know, but it's highly suspected that they do. But during the last federal election, she did moderate a debate, and within there was a moment in the debate where she kind of got into it with the debaters, and actually pretty much ended up propping up Aaron O'Toole.
Mm-hmm.
Literally interfered in the debate.
Yes.
So why it is that she would have ever been given a second chance after that train wreck of a performance the first time, number one, is a question. And number two, particularly in light of what has just happened with Angus Reid, who, by the way, just an aside, decided he was leaving Twitter. He said his account disappeared. And then at some point, a couple of hours later, decided to come back to have one last word before storming off again and announce his exit. And in that moment, he had showed that he had learned absolutely nothing.
Of course.
Absolutely nothing. And it was really weird because then you get all the usual suspects coming up, and it would appear that the line is going to be that he was bullied.
Mm-hmm.
He was bullied out. The Truanons got so mad that they just bullied him and made it impossible for him to remain. Look at the left. Why is it always the left? Why are they so violent? He's the one that went online and made the choice with no gun pointed to his head to share a doctored or edited video, which is ironic given that the Conservatives just got 2 people from CTV fired for an edited clip. But there's been no broadcaster that has said, Angus Reid, you're in the penalty box for the next 6 months. No appearances from your company on our show for what it is that you did. And then said that, I have concern for churches when it actually wasn't even a consecrated church. This moment it was sold.
Had been for a number of years.
Yeah, sold several years ago. Yeah. And then decided to throw a side of residential school denialism on top of that. And then,
whine and say, I've been bullied. Charles U. Farley.
And I only cared about church arson. It's like, I'm
And then doubles down by calling people Truanons. Hey, Angus, I'm not buying the bullshit you're trying to sell me, okay? You're full of it.
So, yeah.
Charles U. Farley.
So, Angus Reid, before he left, came back on. I'm leaving Twitter after a 6-year stint, but I thought I would make a couple of observations before I turn off the lights. Why? Oh, yeah. Crotchety, old, white man, residential school denialist, believes once again we are entitled to his opinion because that worked out so well for him over the last couple of days. Why couldn't you just stay gone? But no, you came back. So please share with us your wisdom. At first, the idea of Twitter was really appealing, a forum where everyone can have a say on their favorite pet or their most despised politician. But the sad reality is that X has become a cesspool of hate, bigotry, ignorance, and lies. Yes, but enough about you.
He's just pathetic.
Of course it has become a cesspool of hate, bigotry, ignorance, and lies. That's the dish you brought to the potluck, honey.
You contributed to it.
Oh my God, this place is so terrible.
Yeah, you mean the tigers that eat people's faces party is eating my face?
And what did you do? Again, I'm sick of my mom. And what did you do?
Oh, I'm not responsible. It's never accepting responsibility for the consequences of their own actions. You're trying to cancel me. No,
What?
you said something. There's consequences for what you said. Enough people didn't like it that they called you out for it, and now you have to face those consequences. And if you're getting canceled, it's because you're a shit gibbon.
Yeah. I brought rotten deviled eggs to the potluck, and now everybody's pissed off at me for giving them food poisoning. Yeah.
We're showing you the door because we don't like you.
My recent outing, which started with a concern about church arson, morphed into me against Trudeau's Twitter Praetorian Guard, the TrueAnon mob. One, you're not the victim. You're the perp.
Yes.
Here. Your recent outing did not start with a concern about church arson. You took an instance of a church being on fire, assumed it was church arson.
It wasn't even arson.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Assumed it was church arson, and you knew who to blame for that. Your concern was not church arson, my friend. Your concern was scapegoating. That's what you came on. Church arson was the pretext. But your concern was about the people you chose to assume, without any information at that time, committed a crime. Your concern was to paint a certain group of people as criminals and dangerous threats. Yeah. And I'm going to guess that the group of people you were thinking about were not crotchety, old, white residential school denialists who feel that the entire world is entitled to their opinion.
And that, if anybody insults them or calls them out for their bullshit, it's like, oh, look what has been done to me. Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
These folks became very angry when I shared my personal outrage over the church's burnings that had reached epidemic proportions since Trudeau's photo shot with the teddy bear up in Kamloops. You're lying still.
Yeah.
Turns out we still don't know what is buried there. Oh.
Yeah. Complete denialism.
Throwing just a little more. Where are the bodies? Like this, as you're... The reaction to my repost of some video was like a sewer pipe on Twitter had broken and spewed a huge sticking pile of shit. Below is a small sampling of what I've received, and then it just keeps on. It's like, dude.
Mm-hmm.
One, you didn't have to announce your exit twice. We heard you the first time. We were glad you were gone. Nobody cried. Well, nobody cried, sorry. The usual suspects cried, oh, he was so bullied. Yeah, right. Because you guys respond to bullying.
I want to address Dan's comment here. He says, I don't know how I feel about painting white, old, bald men as the villains 24/7. I'm white, bald, and old and don't share his pathetic views. Here's the thing, though, Dan. We know that to begin with. So when we paint them as the villain, you're not included in that because you're not the villain. It's only the villains that get painted that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the villains. It's
and
like
the mention of his race is in relation to the people he's trying to accuse.
Exactly. It's like when people say, not all men. Yeah, we know that.
Yes.
I'm not one of those men.
You should assume that from the beginning.
I'm not part of that category. Sure, I look like I am, but I'm not. And anybody who knows me would go in line with that. No, he's definitely not that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to look beyond it, Dan. That's all I'm saying is look beyond it and know that it's not about you personally. It's about a group of men who fit into that category, and you're not one of them.
Yeah. Yes, and that's one thing here. You have to understand, right? So if every time we talk, using a collective term, say white men, except white men who will never get to the point.
To the point.
Right? So it's like if you do not recognize yourself in the comment, it probably doesn't apply to you unless you're one of these white men who are completely oblivious. Oh yeah, those are other white men. No, that's you. You too. But yes,
that's all. But that's all.
Yes,
it's not about you.
We should always first assume, like, at least on this show, if we talk in a collective term, that always it's not everybody. There
Mhm.
are no monoliths.
No. That's it. That's
There are no
exactly it right there.
monoliths like this. So that's usually something when you're in a debate or discussion with someone on the other side that they will do to sort of trip you up to slow down your momentum. Yeah, but not all. Well, of course not all. And then you get into this discussion, which gets you away, and then you forget your point, and you've been pulled off. So it's usually claiming that someone is making a broad generalization that includes absolutely everybody, rather than just using a collective term without like an asterisk and having to list, the 75 medical conditions that or side
Mhm.
effects that you can get while particularly after taking this medication. So let's. I want our audience to be clear. It's like that. We're speaking as humans speak,
Yeah.
even though this is a media platform, of course, and we have to be responsible. But we are speaking as humans speak here.
I have a clip from last night's debate.
Okay, I can't speak much to it because I
No,
haven't
that's
seen
fine.
it.
I
But
want to show this because I
yes,
find it to be fascinating. Like I said, we'll address it a little bit more on Friday, but once we've had a chance to actually review it. But here, check this. This is from Global. This is interesting.
When we were all rolling up our sleeves to get vaccines to protect vulnerable seniors from COVID-19, when Bonnie Henry was working night and day to keep us safe during the pandemic, John Rustad and his candidates were providing donations to people who were protesting outside of hospitals, anti-vax convoy members. He's still an anti-vaxxer. He appeared in front of a group of people that called the so-called, you called it the so-called COVID vaccine. You said you wish you'd never been vaccinated.
That's just not true.
And then when someone said, do you think that public health professionals should be tried like Nazi war criminals?
That's
you
not
said, well,
true.
we wouldn't do that in BC, but we would support an international effort to do
So
that,
look,
John.
it's clear.
Embarrassing. I wouldn't fire Bonnie Henry. I'm trying to hire you and your family a family doctor. We've connected 250,000 people to family doctors. We've got so much more to do. But if you think that we'll be safer in our province with someone who doesn't believe that
Rustad
vaccines
respond,
work
Mr. Eby.
very
in
much.
charge of things?
Let Mr.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mm.
got a little bit heated. to
Yeah,
say the least.
little bit heated. I mean,
But I get a kick out of where he goes, "That's not true." It's like, dude, we've all seen the video. We know it's true.
like
We've
less
seen
than
the
48
video.
hours ago.
Yeah,
It's like our memories are not that bad. I remember, ooh boy. So yeah, apparently during the debate, John Rustad talked about stuff like paper straws and ending the decriminalization experiment for safe supply and that type of stuff
Mhm.
in BC. David Eby said something like, "You can't do this. You can't govern through conspiracy theories, cuts, and divisiveness." And the BC Greens, Sonia Furstenauer, was like sitting there like, "Dudes, can we have less division and more cooperation, please?" So apparently that was sort of like the overall gist of the night from what I've been able to read. But I do want to watch it myself and then get back to you on stuff. But yeah, Kitland, any minute now, Rustad will be. Don't fact check me. And you could see in that clip, right, that John Rustad was really, 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 really appalled by the things being said by him.
That he said.
That's not true. That's not like he really like launched a vigorous defense of himself. His denials were forceful and
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I swear, man.
Pretty bad. It's really
It's
bad.
bad. All right, kits and cubs. We're a little late to this one because, well, it started a while ago. But yeah, the writ has been drawn in Saskatchewan about a week ago.
Wow.
And I actually got this. If you hear me saying the writ has been drawn and you're going, whoa, wait a minute, isn't the writ dropped? I actually picked this up from Steve Aiken on TV Ontario. Apparently, the actual expression is, because we always say the writ has been dropped, the actual expression is the writ has been drawn. You draw up
Mhm.
a writ you don't
Correct.
drop it. I didn't know that. So I was like 4 days ago years old when I finally learned that I'd been saying it wrong my entire life. So the writ has been drawn in Saskatchewan for the election there. Saskatchewan Party, currently led by Scott Moe, previously led by Brad Wall, who also has some involvement
Yes. With the
with the
convoy.
convoy.
Yep.
Pre-meetings, offering them advice, consulting with them. Well, they've been in power for 17 years now, and they are now seeking a fifth mandate, which presents a beautiful irony with the federal level, because Justin Trudeau is pursuing a fourth mandate. Oh my God, federally, we're so tired of him. He's got to go. Scott, wow, he's fine. He can stay. Saskatchewan Party, 17 years, 4 more years, sure.
Yeah, funny
Fifth
how that
term in a
works.
row, no problem. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing abnormal. It's not a government that's old and tired. We're not sick of him yet. It's funny how what applies federally never seems to apply provincially when a conservative is leading. Interesting. I get Kit Cassie going, oh my God, former Speaker Randy Weeks is spilling all the beans on the Sask Party and supporting Carla Beck and the NDP. Yeah, he is. A lot of people made the joke. We have some new Weeks he leaks. Kitland and Steve Boots did a short jumping up and down so he can vote to replace Scott Moe. Yeah. Now Moe's got to go. It would be really nice if there was no Moe after this. But
well, he's an idiot.
Well, yes.
He wants to investigate chemtrails.
Yes. Him too. The polls seem to indicate that there was a narrowing and that they were tied going into the election. It seems that there is a more of a spread now, again, in favor of the Saskatchewan Party, unfortunately. That really sucks, to be totally honest. But yeah, we'll see what happens. There's still some more time. And it's not that Carla Beck isn't running a competent campaign so far. She really is. But you can tell through the communications that Scott Moe and the Sask Party are more polished, and that they have been at it for a longer time. There's definitely a change in the quality of the output. And that's not to say that the NDP's output is terrible. But yeah, the Saskatchewan parties are more slick, more TV ready, more produced. So it looks like they are more organized. Again, that's the style. On the substance, however, right, not so great. I've got this thing here. I don't know if I don't think we have time to show it all today, unfortunately. So, because I wanted to get a couple of clips, but let's do this. I'm not going to show all the ones that I had put aside, but I will send you this, Mr. Grizzly. This is NDP leader Carla Beck. Scott Moe had his opening. He talked for about 8 minutes. It was okay, but it's one of those things again where it was a one-man show.
Mm-hmm.
There was only him. There's posters, election signs with the names of a lot of other candidates, but again, it was just him, which was very interesting because it seems to be a common trait. Rustad, it was just him, and Blaine Higgs, it was just him as well. So, like I said, I'm used to the launch of an election campaign where there's a whole bunch of people there behind you standing, and you're there with your team. And yeah, this is not happening as much anymore, at least if you're a conservative party. But in this one, you will see that Carla Beck, don't believe she has people behind her in this one as well. But this is when she's specifically at the podium, and she's in a big room. She makes her whole opening statement. I guess if we had started with this and we're doing just the show just on this, I would have showed that, and I might show it on another episode. But I want to go directly to the questions and answer part. So, Mr. Grizzly, if you can put us up to 9 minutes and 30 seconds about-ish on the clip that I sent you. And we'll see some of the things that she has to say. The reason why I'm focusing more on Carla Beck is not because I want to give unequal time to Premier Mo, but he's been around and we know what he's about. Carla Beck is the quantity that we are discovering.
Mhm.
So for today, because I don't want this show to be 3 hours, we'll stick with her, but then I will come back and
We can deal with
put in
that.
some Scott Mo.
when this election is over.
When it comes to affordability, we heard already this morning from the Beaver that there is from Scotland something that there are income tax cuts coming as part of his campaign. I'm wondering if you have anything directly say about affordability measures that you bring.
I would say this.
So is it,
I don't think the Premier has understood just how much Saskatchewan people have been struggling, that they've been struggling for years. And this is a Premier who has not only not offered relief to Saskatchewan people, has actually made life more expensive. We have a plan to focus on the things that people tell us are most troubling to them: groceries, the children's clothing, gas, trying to put gas in their vehicle to get where they need to go. We've got a plan to deliver it right away. But I would also say Saskatchewan people need a government that will work for all people in this province and will work right across their mandate, right throughout their mandate, not just come in on the eve of an election and offer what they should have delivered 2 years ago while people were struggling.
okay, so that's basically her overall position on affordability. One of the comments that she is making often is that Scott Moe has raised taxes 31 times, I think, in the last 4 years, including an increase of the HST, particularly as it applies to children's clothes and on food. And I believe she said that she was going to remove that, as well as give a 6-month gas tax cut. With regard to that, Scott Moe has been promising some actual income tax release. I believe raising the threshold at which tax starts to kick in, which is an interesting move because, as Carla Beck repeatedly points out, and as studies have pointed out, because we reported it on the show, Saskatchewan ranks last in the nation in terms of healthcare and education provision. And basically, Premier Scott Moe thinks that he has the luxury of taking in less revenue in order to address those issues.
That's thick irony when you consider that the idea for universal health care came from Saskatchewan.
Yeah. This is about, the questions are sometimes not all that clear. She's being asked to respond to comments about the cost of promises made prior to the writ being drawn as assessed by the Sask Party. Scott Moe is making the claim that, oh my God, look at all the promises that they made before the election. It totals this much amount. They're going to blow the bank. Carla, what do you say to that?
Just a second here. I'm trying to get it to play.
On to $4 billion that raises question that the government has already costed in terms of your election promises. Do you find that figure accurate? Inaccurate? How will the budget adjustments be made?
The first thing that they're off by a bit, but close. But this is a government too. I wouldn't trust necessarily their calculator. They've had a lot of trouble balancing their own budget. Scott Moe has doubled the debt, has created more debt in this province than any other premier in the shortest period of time, and still managed to underfund and take us to last place on education and healthcare and delivering relief. This is a government that has already spent $2 billion above what it budgeted in its last budget. As I said, our plan is fully costed. We are confident in those numbers. We will release it shortly But we're also confident that what we're putting forward is a plan to effectively address the concerns that Saskatchewan people tell us are most important to them.
What number are you citing for the costing to date then if they're off by a bit?
I'm slightly under 4 billion, but as I said, we'll make sure that you have all of those details and opportunity to ask us questions.
I'm slightly under 6 feet.
Me too. If pressed, I think 3.5, but again, we're talking over 4 years, investing in the things that, frankly, need that investment. Our kids' classrooms where they don't get a chance at getting their education. Not just investing in healthcare, but working with healthcare workers to ensure that we preserve what people in this province and right across this country value. That is our public healthcare system. It can be done. As I said, the problem is not revenue in this province. The problem is mismanagement and a lack of effectiveness from a very tired and out-of-touch government that has stopped listening to people.
All right. So there, when you heard her laughing the first time, right, because she was being asked about, so is the Sask Party's assessment of your numbers good? Right. Sask Party is estimating the cost of Saskatchewan NDP promises made before the writ was drawn at over $4 billion. She says, and this is what I liked about it, because the journalist was pressing her, says, well, we'll have the numbers soon like this. Well, okay, well, if absolutely came back a second time, said, sort of ballpark, third time, if I was really pressed, I'd have to say they come in at about 3.5 billion. So she did answer. Right, there was a back and forth like this. Says, if pressed, I will. So she's not trying to run away. She's not trying to avoid. She's trying to give actual answers with substance. Doesn't want to give an answer that she doesn't really know firmly what the number is, right? But around 3.5. But then says specifically, but you need to understand that's 3.5 over 4 years, not 3.5 a year, and it's to invest in the stuff. Basically, there's a deficit in these areas of investment, similar to what Harper left us federally, by announcing money and then pulling it back. So there were needs that were there that deserved to be funded because he announced the funding, but then said, hey, if you don't have to spend all that money, please don't. So people didn't. Because those needs that the money that was earmarked for but didn't get spent on were still there. And things got worse. So it would require more money to fix them because they were allowed to fester. So people need to understand that all deficits are not in dollars when you're measuring them. If you underfund a program for several years, and then the program is not performing optimally, you have a deficit in that program. Now, you don't know what the dollar amount is yet to be able to fix it, but there's a deficit in that program. You've just transferred the deficit, you've balanced the books, but you've created a deficit in services that needs to be filled, which will require money. Right? So beware of governments that shift deficits around so that the number that we all focus on, the one in the budget, gets shored up. Because ultimately that just doesn't help anyone at all. Now, the polls are a little bit all over the place. If you're looking at the aggregator 338, it says that there are some polls that show Saskatchewan Party with a 10-point lead. Main Street Research, which has an A- rating, and it's the one that's the best rated in this, other than a research company. But they haven't put anything out since February. So, but Main Street is the latest one that has the best rating. It has an A- rating and has the Sask Party with a 10-point lead. Angus Reid has them at a 7-point lead. But Insitrix Research has the NDP with a 1-point lead. Who knows? So, if you're in Saskatchewan, given that you have pollsters one saying one has a 10-point lead, the other one saying that the whole other party has a 1-point lead, that it's neck and neck. Don't focus on the polls. So if you're seeing a 10-point lead for the Sask part and you're thinking, oh, well, there's no point, the NDP have lost again, don't. That's not where things are at yet. That's not where things are at yet. And that election day, I believe, is on the 28th. So there's still a lot of time for stuff to happen, and the debate has not yet happened there. Let's go to the next clip. She is asked about increasing royalties on oil and gas and the carbon tax. And this here, the answer that she gives is proof that in Saskatchewan, as seems to be the case in Alberta, as seems to be the case in Manitoba, the NDP really is the new version of the Progressive Conservative Party.
Okay.
People. It has to be both.
I'm wondering if you can assure voters today that the NDP won't touch potash royalties, won't touch resource royalties. Wonder if
Yes. Yeah, that was part of the initial statement on not increasing taxes.
What about the carbon tax specifically? What's the plan around that?
As it has been from day one, our call has been for the carbon tax to be scrapped. This is a measure that has not been effective. We have increasing costs and increasing emissions at a time when we can't afford either. It's not been effective. It is also terribly unpopular, and that has been our position for a very long time. There are other ways that we can reduce emissions without punishing provinces such as ours that have historically contributed so much when it comes to energy generation in this province. There's a way to, again, be more effective, but we don't see a government that's looking for solutions. They look for fights. They don't often deliver, and Saskatchewan people are left dealing with the impact of how ineffective they have been on front after front.
When it comes to something like the Beaver irrigation project, I know we're talking about a lot of the spending, but how much what the future of that project looks like?
As with any project, big or small, but especially any project that is looking or proposes billions of dollars of investment, we need to ensure that we're doing our due diligence on it, that there's a return on that investment, that there's proper planning, that there's transparency, that people have the opportunity to express where their concerns or questions might be. That's what people expect when you're spending billions of dollars. That's what we've committed to on that particular project, but it's how we would approach any major project in this province. Two things that I don't see this government doing consistently: listening to those who are most impacted or who are on the front lines or who might have expertise in an area, and being transparent with the people of this province about their spending decisions, about so many of their decisions. Again, in rooms big and small, people that you might not expect or we traditionally haven't heard from, we're hearing from people that this is a government that simply isn't listening. They're making so many decisions in small rooms, in Regina, in the legislature, without input from Saskatchewan people. That frustrates people at all levels of government, and it's another reason why people are saying it's time for change.
All right. So there were two answers back to back. So 2 segments back to back that I was going to present separately, but they all came together. So up until when she was talking, and including the time that she was talking about carbon tax, you can see that it really is the new line, right on that. The NDP parties in these provinces don't necessarily support it, trying to walk away from it, but the people who are in charge now are not taking it seriously and whatnot. So they're trying to walk this middle line, if not the carbon tax, but maybe something else or another way to do it. But the guys that are there, but it still is a problem. The guys that are there are doing nothing. And terms like, we can't be punished for doing these types of, so it's a lot of the rhetoric that's on the right side of the spectrum, but clearly not as far and as wild as Danielle Smith. It's like, we don't need to do everything and everything's an attack on us. But it's there. It's that same type of a thing. And that last little bit was asking about an irrigation project. And there, the comment why I wanted to bring it out is that, when she's talking about transparency and she's talking about how Scott Moe runs things, once again, we're looking at, as I mentioned, right, it looks like it's a one-man show from Scott Moe. And she's making a lot of comments very similar to comments that were made by the MLAs in New Brunswick that have left Blaine Higgs. I don't need your damn data. Like this, I've decided I know what's going on here. So that too is a theme, and you see that happening in BC too. People are starting asking that about John Rustad. Are all your people aware that you're doing this? And you can tell that the party doesn't have a great ground game because there's a lot of the candidates, there's stuff in their past. There's a lot that's coming out too. There was something that was leaked. I think BC United, before they merged, had started doing some opposition research, and there was a 200-page document, I think it was, or document with 200 instances, one or the other, can't remember off the top of my head, of everything all of their candidates have said beforehand that could all be used. So when we were wondering at the beginning, gee, is it like every day on this kind of campaign going to have a clip of something that Rust had said in the past? It seems so. Or one of his candidates, because it seems that the party in everything that was going on didn't take time. Either didn't take time to go look at them, or given the stuff that Rust has been saying, probably they didn't see a problem with what the other candidates have been saying. So they didn't feel they needed to be vetted because, well, look at the leader. Now, there's one more little clip because I do have to be fair. And this is of Scott Moe that I will show. And this is something that he's been doing. And when I say that his comms are a little glossier, he really does have the theme for the day. And it seems that every day starts with a little short video like this that he does personally. And then they go on the campaign and talk about this. And interestingly enough, Scott Moe so far has had a lot of things to say, because this party has been in power for 17 years. There's a thing that he's doing that he keeps on bringing the record of the NDP, because it seems that they were in power for 16 years before. And they say, oh, well, the NDP did that. Yeah, but that was an NDP 17 years ago, buddy. It's not the same people, not the same. You can't claim that, what they did 17 years ago is the same thing that they're going to do now. And if we're looking at your past 17-year record, well, you brought the province to last place in health and education. You're the highest in terms of teen pregnancies and STDs and
on and so on and so forth. Yeah, it just gets bad and bad and bad.
Right. So, I mean, all the things that the conservatives say, like after when liberals come in and, 2 years after they come in, well, Harper left us a mess. Well, oh, you're blaming the other guy again. Well, sometimes you are, because sometimes the mess that they made takes 4 or 5 years to clean up.
Yes.
So it sometimes is their fault. But once you get to the point of, but people want to stop hearing it after 2 years. But when you're at 17 years and said, watch out for the other guys. The other guys remember what happens. First of all, there's a whole generation of people that don't remember.
You've been there longer.
There's a whole generation of people that have probably died since then.
It's a terrible campaign approach to say, look what the other guys did 17 years ago when we weren't in power.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
But it's like, there's a whole bunch of people that have died since then. And there's a whole bunch of new people that are entering the voting age who don't remember that.
Yeah.
So you can only get so far on that.
It's a pretty pathetic attempt, if you ask me, to sway people. But all right, let's have a look at this, because I can only take, well, thank goodness, it's only 1 minute and 25 seconds. All I can take of this guy.
Saskatchewan is the most affordable place to live in Canada. But Saskatchewan families are still feeling the cost of living pressures, just like everyone else is. The provincial government can lower prices, but we can put more money back into your pockets by cutting your taxes. Provincial taxes today are significantly lower than they were under the NDP. Since we've been in government, the Saskatchewan Party has cut your income tax. We cut the education portion of your property tax. And most recently, we took the Trudeau NDP carbon tax off of your home heating bill. So today I am making our first campaign commitment to cut your taxes yet again. A re-elected Saskatchewan Party government will reduce provincial income tax by raising the personal exemption, the spousal exemption, the child exemption, and the senior supplement by $500 each year for the next 4 years. That means everyone who pays provincial income tax today will pay less. And 54,000 Saskatchewan people who are paying income tax today will no longer pay any provincial income tax at all. When combined with indexation, a family of 4 will save about $3,400. And a seniors couple will save about $3,100 over the next 4 years, making life more affordable for Saskatchewan people. It's part of our plan for a strong economy and a brighter future.
That's interesting, but what happens when you need to go to the hospital and there's no doctor and the ER is closed because they've made so many cuts to the tax revenue base, which would fund healthcare? And we all know there's $70 billion in missing healthcare funds transfers from the federal government to the provinces. And that money's still unaccounted for.
Yeah, Cassie. But Scott Moe charged PST on groceries, children's clothes, and diapers, though.
Yeah.
Look at Lindem. We cut the education portion of your property tax. That's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, right? So you see, Scott Moe has the same thing that the other conservative premiers have. When he's scripted, he actually sounds like a normal human being.
Yes. Yeah.
Good production values, quick minute and a half. Here's the thing today. It's going to be tax cuts, presented, calm, professionally delivered. That's the edge that he's got over Carla Beck. He seems to have the budget and the resources and whatnot to do this. They've taken this tack. And it's really, really good comms. As a communication strategist, this is really, really good comms. But we know what he's about, too. There's some contradictions here. If Saskatchewan is the most affordable place to live and people are still feeling the squeeze, and your party has been in power for 17 years, why is that? The other thing is that the height of the inflation crisis and the supply chain crises and all that type of stuff was over the last 2 years. Where was he over the last 2 years with this $3,400 allegedly to help them with the cost of living? He was nowhere to be seen, but now there's an election. I've got some money for you. Because when we had 8.1% inflation, that was the time to come up with some tax relief.
Yeah.
For people. 2 years, they've already gotten over the worst of it. Now, some people have accumulated debt and whatnot, but you're 2 years late. Notice also that the distribution of that tax relief, again, families with children, seniors, when we know the crunch is with single Canadians, young Canadians, 18 to 34, the Indigenous, and the disability community. He's directing all the tax relief to the people for whom all the previous measures were already. Again, not saying that you shouldn't help seniors. But if you go to Statistics Canada and you look, the percentage of homes, senior homes, that are living close to the poverty line is like something like 6% of them.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the percentage of people 30 and under who pretty much feel like they just should give up now because there's no way they're ever going to be able to afford a home? What is the number of couples living in a 1-bedroom condo who we've been told by, I think it was Adam Vaughan,
Adam Vaughan.
Adam Vaughan in Toronto, when he did the study and found out that in Toronto, now I know this is talk about Saskatchewan here, but in Toronto, when he found out that 90% of new residential construction projects were like 1 bedroom or smaller condos in Toronto. It's like, it's a great place to make a baby, not a great place to raise a baby. What about all those people? There's nothing for them. There's the base amount. Every time a single Canadian gets some tax relief, it's when it's something like the base amount, the base exemption is raised, because it's a general measure that applies to everyone. But that pool of money is divided among absolute everyone who files. So you get such a tiny portion of it. You get such a tiny portion of it that what real substantive material difference does it make to your life? It doesn't give you $3,400 more a year. Might give you 150, 200, 300, but it doesn't give you all that much.
No.
So he's got a pool of money, and he knows which population groups are having it the hardest right now, but he's still directing the money to the groups who are not first in line to needing it, but the groups that do vote for him. We have an expression in French to say "pas far far."
Mm-hmm.
It's not really strong. But again, if you're pandering, he's got that down. He's got that down. So Carla Beck does have, like, I know those of us on the center to the left side of the spectrum can't understand how this guy, just sort of like Doug Ford, how are they so freaking popular still? But they know on what side their bread is buttered, and they keep on handing them butter. It's pretty much how they're doing it, at the cost and expense of everybody else, of course. But that's the situation that's going on there, sadly. So we will have more Saskatchewan election stuff for you, particularly from the launches and getting into the thrust and parry of what's been going on over the past few days. But wanted to drop that here for you, Kits and Cubs, because I know that we have some listeners in Saskatchewan, and I don't want you to believe that we have forgotten about you or that we're jumping over you. We're not. Fortunately, of the 3 elections, it's the one that's the third, and there's a whole week between one of them and the other. So yeah, our Saskatchewan coverage might get a little backloaded, but we will have it, and we are hoping to get a guest on to be able to speak to what's going on over there as well for you, Kits and Cubs. And we have sent a message out, a request out to Carla Beck's office, hoping for an interview. We have not heard back, unfortunately. So right now it's not looking like that will happen. But we did reach out, same thing in BC. We sent a letter to David Eby's office asking, and we have not heard back as well yet, unfortunately. Oh, well.
They're kind of busy, though. So, you know.
They are kind of busy. And, you know, like I said, we are growing, but we are not the place yet. So, yeah, they'll come. On that, though, we did get some good news, Mr. Grizzly, because we sent in a request for media accreditation for an event, and it appears that we have received it. So I'm very excited about that. In Ottawa, from October 29th to 31st, there's a national conference on ending homelessness. So that's a subject that we have been very seized with since we've started this. I remember back in the day we had this wonderful interview project episode with Dr. David Debaillet, who really brought a lot of goods when it came to it. Was very, very, very substantive discussion. Was one of the ones that we're the most proud of, actually. So information might be a little dated, but if you look for it in our archives, that would be really great. There's some good information in there. But yes, so we have an invitation. We'll be covering it. And two of the reasons we really wanted to cover it, other than the issue of homelessness, is because they will have two guest speakers, well, three guest speakers, actually. At the time we applied, we only knew of two. And they're guest speakers that we are hoping to have some time with, since we will be there. The first one is Guy Felicella, who's been invited to speak. And as we know, we talk about him a lot. He will share his story, one of survival, of transformation, and of hope, as well as his vision for a future without homelessness, where nobody has to go through a similar experience as his. And hopefully he has agreed to have a chat with us in general. We hadn't set a date and time, and I'm going to ask him if while he is in Ottawa would be a good time to do that, so we could do it face to face, because Mr. Grizzly got me some snazzy equipment. I believe it's a microphone that actually plugs into my phone.
Yeah, I have the same kit. Similar, well, very similar kit. It's the one I used when I was in Calgary for the summer, and I have some handheld attachments with mic flags. Yeah. Give me a second, I'll show them to you.
There you go. So hopefully we will be able to do, instead of like over Zoom and whatnot, a live interview person to person, and be able to film that and bring that to you. Hopefully, would be a thing. The other guest that they have is Connie Walker, and she is someone we've reached out to. We haven't heard back from yet, but we are really hoping, and I've been wanting to get an interview with her for a long time. She is named one of Time's 100 most influential people of 2024, has spent over 2 decades shedding light on often overlooked Indigenous stories. She is a Pulitzer Prize and Peabody Award-winning investigative journalist. So a couple of years ago, she picked up a Pulitzer for her work. That's when we reached out and tried to get her to agree to an interview, and we've not heard anything. So hopefully, since she's there and we're there, hopefully she will have some time. But we will reach out and make the ask again. And then the third person that they will have is Jennifer Botterill, who's one of Canada's most successful athletes, a member of Canadians women hockey team for 14 years, and a 3-time Olympic champion. She is now the CEO of Excel in Life Incorporated and Journey to Excel Incorporated, where she continues her pursuit of excellence while inspiring and coaching others. And Jennifer Botterill, by the way, is a graduate of Harvard University.
Yeah, she knows what she's talking about. So here's our handheld mic devices.
Ooh.
Just slide the wireless clip right into here. Boom. And just so I could wear one and then hold one to interview people with. So it's like, there you go.
Oh, that's fantastic. Look at us. Look at us. So yeah, hopefully we will be able to get some time with all three of them and bring you some interesting interviews. And then, of course, there will be some conference presenters and whatnot, and hopefully we'll be able to get some interviews from them. So hopefully we'll have a lot of content, housing-related content for you in November and December to present based on this conference. So this is the first time that we will be attempting this. Hopefully it will work out. Hopefully we'll get good enough material, and I will be skilled enough with the technology in order to
I'll be there.
Good stuff.
I'll be there. So
yeah. But hopefully we'll be able to do that. So because, like I said, it's the first time for both of us. We'll probably be a good idea to test a few things before
we will do that in advance.
Yeah. But so October 29th to 31st, this is our technically our second event, because I went to an iPolitics night one night, but that was more for personal edification, because I was personally interested in the topic, and I am here too. But that really was an individual pursuit. But I did register ourselves under True North, Beaver, and Crier Media to start getting the word out that that we are a thing. So this time it worked. Sometimes it doesn't, because we tried to get accreditation to cover the National Bank Open as well, and that one we were denied. We weren't big enough yet.
Well, there's also the sports team that has accreditation, the sports podcast on Crier Media that has accreditation with the Blue Jays.
Yes, and when oh god, I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. But one has accreditation for the Canadian Open, the young man from Choir who got the video when Nick Taylor won the Canadian Open 2 years
Correct.
ago. Last year they got to go back again. So it seems that they're well entrenched there.
Mhm.
So there you go. Making our way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. We're making our way. We're making our way slowly but
Mhm.
surely.
Mhm.
We're getting there. We're getting recognized. So yeah, we're really happy about that. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some great content for you. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. And you have the mouths from which we want the word to come. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. It makes us very happy when you do. Now, if you would like to be sure that you do not miss a single episode of our wonderful and delightful podcast, of course, I'm a little biased, but then you don't have to because of the Ray Girl. She sponsors us. She sponsors our pod page. So you go to podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words, or scan that QR code that has just appeared under my chin, and that will take you right there. If you click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. Boom. No fuss, no muss. Easy peasy. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Elaine and surf yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we have some buttons for you: like, share, and subscribe. If you click them, as Kit Cassie recommends we do, well then, kits and cubs, that helps us a lot. It really does. And it makes us happy, and it helps us produce the show for you. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, that QR code that's by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you to our coffee page, which is where you can find our tip jar. So if you would like to support us financially and would like to offer us some encouragement, because, there are some costs that come with producing the show. And of course, we offer it to you for free. If you would like to help, that would make us very happy, and it would indeed be quite appreciated. So you scan that QR code there, or you go to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you want to send us a little something there, that helps us out a lot. Our recommended donation is $3, but of course you can give whatever you like. If it's more, if it's less, we appreciate that very much. And if you are not able to, please do not worry, because the gift of your attention and participation is the one that we cherish the most, and we appreciate all communication from you, and we like to hear from you. So truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Thank you, Kit Jan, for the love. Great show, fellas. Aw, thanks. Love that. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. You can write to us at our Twitter feed @TrueEager. You can leave us a note right here on our YouTube page, or you can go to our Facebook blog page, True North Eager Beaver, and tell us what you think. We appreciate praise and constructive criticism. Please be gentle, of course. But yes, we appreciate it all very much, and we thank you for everything that you do for us. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, remember, as we mentioned, there are elections going on in Saskatchewan, but as well in New Brunswick and British Columbia. Please plan your vote, research your candidates. This is very, very, very important. We haven't mentioned it too much on the show, but for kids and cubs who are aware of our country works, the manner in which our Constitution can be amended is with 7 provinces containing 50% or more of the population all signing on to something. And we have a situation brewing where we could have that 7 ideologically minded, at least 7 provinces governed by ideologically minded conservative premiers with a potential prime minister PP. And in Quebec, a few years down the road, potentially a Premier Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon of the Parti Québécois, who has already vowed that he will hold a referendum in his first term. And that seems to me to be a very, 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 very nasty combination of people if we want to maintain Canada as being one country and maintain our charter as we know it. So we have to flip some of those provinces. It's not, if you remember in the United States when Hillary Clinton was running and people were saying, oh, well, I don't know if I can, I would like a woman, but not that woman. And there was that Batman and Robin meme where Batman's slapping someone across the face.
Robin, he's slapping Robin across the face.
And Robin's going, I don't know if I can trust her. And he's going, 3 Supreme Court justices. Think of the big picture. Well, the big picture here is 7 provinces run by conservatives with a conservative government. They will propose amendments to our charter.
Of course they will.
And they will, other than they won't have a friendly Senate, but they will push them through. And if there's a Paul-Saint Pierre Plamondon as leader of Quebec with the PP, this guy is so ornery and prickly. And all the comments, all the commentary is anti-Quebec. You can bet that he's going to push him to go because it is in the Conservative Party's long-term interest to have a Canada without Quebec because Quebec very rarely votes Conservative. So, ringing the alarms here. We are very well set up for that. And the best line of defense to protect against this right away, the quickest way, is for British Columbia to remain in NDP hands, and for at least New Brunswick to flip to outside of Conservative hands. And if Saskatchewan could go too, that would be a huge sigh of relief. So we are in a situation where all 3 provinces could, where British Columbia could stay in hands and the other 2 could flip. There is fatigue with Mo, and there's definitely fatigue with Higgs. But we, the voters, need to get out, strategically vote if necessary, and really support. This is not one where you stay home. All right? So we try to make light and we try to make some jokes and, present some entertainment. But the situation is that, if you understand the civics of our country, we are teetering. With the United States, it was their Supreme Court. Fortunately, our Supreme Court doesn't work that way. But here's, if we have 7 provinces, if we do have the 750 thing, and it's all led by conservatives, we are setting ourselves up for wholesale changes to our Constitution that a lot of us will not be happy about. So you need to get out and vote. And you need to bring friends with you. And you need to convince people that if you are, particularly in Saskatchewan and New Brunswick, but also British Columbia, which it seems that Rustad's, according to the latest polls, Rustad's little flights of fancy is starting to affect him and he's taking a little dip. So there might be a gap opening there. But it's not won until it's won, and it's not won until all the votes are counted. So up until the moment that all the votes are counted, you do whatever that you can do. All right? Mr. Grizzly, sorry, that was a long because democracy is something you could do, but the chess pieces are on the board and they are being moved and you need to be aware. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom?
I'm going to sum it up in an image. The image, for those of you who are listening, is the image of a man standing on a gigantic pile of money, pointing down at somebody holding a placard that says, raise the minimum wage. And the rich man on the giant pile of money said, your greed is hurting the economy. What I'm trying to say is, remember, unionize, fight for your rights, get paid a better wage, because the wealthy and the powerful will keep you down under their boot heel forever if they can.
Go get yours.
Go get it.
Know what you're worth. Go get it.
I'll see you.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Mr. Grizzly, we have some interesting news about Canadians that make us proud because they've started handing out the Nobel Prizes this year. The prize for medicine came out, and the prize, I believe, for chemistry came out today. But yesterday, there was a prize, I believe it was for physics. And we have a new Canadian Nobel laureate. He shared the prize, but his name is Mr. Geoffrey Hinton, who won. Is he sharing the prize or is he all alone? Because he shared the prize with a man named John Hopfield, and I'm trying to bring it up right now. They won the prize in physics, quote, for foundational discoveries and inventions that enable machine learning with artificial neural networks. So has something to do with AI here. And it says here, this is talking about John Hopfield. John Hopfield is from Princeton, and Hinton is from the University of Toronto. And it says that these year's 2 Nobel laureates in physics have used tools from physics to develop methods that are the foundation of today's powerful machine learning, the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences noted in awarding the prize today. John Hopfield created an associative memory that can store and reconstruct images and other types of pattern and data, the Academy said. Geoffrey Hinton invented a method that can autonomously find properties in data and so perform tasks such as identifying specific elements in pictures. Word of the award reached Hopfield at a thatched cottage where he's staying in England. Quote, my wife and I went out to get a flu shot and stopped to get a coffee on the way back home. They returned to find a flood of congratulatory emails that he described as astounding and heartwarming. Hopfield is the Howard A. Pryor Professor in Life Sciences Emeritus and Professor of Molecular Biology Emeritus. He holds an associated faculty status in physics and neuroscience. He taught for 16 years as a professor of physics and helped establish the Princeton Neuroscience Institute. So he is really well known. Now, Mr. Hinton, however, from Canada, is already paying it forward, which is very interesting. And we'll put up a picture of him here for you so that the kits and cubs can see. This is, whoops, there you go. So this is Mr. Jeff Hinton here, as pictured in the MIT Technology Review. So clearly he was a star in the field before that. But he has come out, because he's at the University of Toronto, and has already given an interview stating that he is not pleased at all with what's going on with the Ontario Science Centre. Mm-hmm. So he's already paying it forward. According to the University of Toronto, Geoffrey Hinton is a University Professor Emeritus of Computer Science at the University of Toronto, has won the Nobel Prize in Physics for 2024, widely regarded as, quote, the godfather of AI. Hinton shared the prize with John Hopfield, Princeton University, for foundational discoveries and inventions that enable machine learning with artificial neural networks. Hinton said he was flabbergasted at the honor as messages poured in from around the world. Quote, I had no expectation of this, he told University of Toronto News shortly after the win was announced in Stockholm Tuesday morning. I am extremely surprised and am honored to be included. He later told reporters at a press conference he was, quote, in a cheap hotel in California with no internet and a poor phone connection when he was notified about his Nobel Prize. Quote, I was going to get an MRI scan today, but I think I'm going to have to cancel that. Hinton and Hopfield are credited with wielding tools from physics to advance basic research in the field. Specifically, Hopfield created an associative memory that can store and reconstruct images and data, while Hinton invented a way to find properties in data and perform tasks such as identifying specific elements in pictures. On behalf of the University of Toronto, I am absolutely delighted to congratulate University Professor Emeritus Geoffrey Hinton on receiving the 2024 Nobel Prize in Physics, said U of T President Merrick Gertler of the the U of T community is immensely proud of his historic accomplishment. Hinton was selected for the high-profile award for his use of the Hopfield network, invented by his co-laureate, as the foundation for a new network called the Boltzmann machine that can learn to recognize elements when giving a type of data. The Boltzmann machine can classify images and generate new examples of the pattern on which it was trained, with Hinton and his graduate students later building on this work to help usher in today's rapid development of machine learning, a technology that now underpins a host of applications ranging from large language models such as ChatGPT to self-driving cars. And then the article goes on for a long time here. It's quite an in-depth article that I will put a link to here for you to share with the kids, Mr. Grizzly, if you want to read more about him. But yes, Kit Saucy, yay for science. Science is cool. And we have another Canadian Nobel laureate.
Cool.
Not that. Canada's apparently broken, but according to PP, but our universities are still producing researchers that win Nobels.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're not so broken after all.
All right. I got to
Have a
go.
great day.
I'll see you.